In this video, I'm going to show you some techniques for successfully working through the information literacy module and improving your opportunity to score well on the exam, and then the correct procedure for capturing your screenshot of your grade and then submitting it back over to the CGS1100 course. So let's get started. As you can see, I'm already logged into Canvas and I'm looking at my Canvas dashboard. I'm going to go into one of my micro apps courses here. I'm looking at instructor view, so I'm going to switch over to student view so that my screens look more like what you all see as students. And let's take a look at modules. And if you're working through the course in order, eventually you will run into the information literacy module, or ILM. I'm going to refer to it as the ILM for short. If we look at the ILM instructions, it tells us a little bit about what the ILM is about and why it's included in this course. And then it provides these instructions for how to access it, and then when you're finished, how to submit your final grade back here to the CGS 1100 course so that you can get credit for it. Let's walk through that right now. So first thing I'm going to do is, I'm going to switch out of student view here. I'm going to go back to my dashboard, and the ILM is actually in a different course. So you'll find it in one of two ways. Either you can locate the card on your dashboard for the information literacy module, or you can access it on the list by clicking on the courses link. But in either case, you're looking for your information literacy module course. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to student view so that my screens look like yours. And you'll be greeted with this home screen that talks about what the ILM is all about and this important information about the fact that you do need to complete the ILM and then submit your score back over to CGS 1100, back to the micro apps course. And you'll notice that when you reach the final exam, you only get one attempt at that, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. So the way the ILM works is that you'll go to modules and you'll work your way through the modules until eventually you reach the final exam here at the end. Now, the way this course works is that each of the individual modules within it has a prerequisite of the one before it, which means that you do have to work through this in order, and it won't let you proceed until you've gotten through each of the units. So as you can see, for example, here on the 5th module, it's got a prereq of the 4th, and on the 6th, the prereq of the 5th, and so on. And then eventually you'll reach the final. Let's talk about how we get there. Each of the modules has a quiz at the end of it to check on your progress and how you're doing with the material. Now, these self-check quizzes are not part of the eventual final grade, but you're going to want to take them multiple times until you get all the questions correct. The reason for that is because the questions on these self-check quizzes are going to set you up to be very successful on the final exam, which is graded. So when you reach each self-check, you do have the ability to take them multiple times. Allowed attempts unlimited. Take them until you get them right. And then you'll be proceeding through the modules. That one was for unit number 1. And so on. Here's the self-check for unit number 2. Again, it's another set of questions, unlimited attempts. Again, take my advice and take it multiple times until you get them right. Again, this is not part of the final score. And then, once you've completed all 6 of the units, you'll eventually reach the final exam, and this is the one that is graded, and this is the one that you do only get one attempt. So if we look at the instructions, once again, it's another screen of information talking about accessing and then submitting the final grade. And then when you proceed on to the exam, it talks about exactly what it's going to be about. You only have one attempt. This assessment is cumulative. There is no time limit on it. And the good news about that is that you also do not have to necessarily take the exam in one sitting. The exam has 32 questions on it, And you could take, for example, the first 10 questions and then take a break, and Canvas will remember where you left off. Even if you log all the way out of Canvas, it'll remember your progress. Now, the score will not be recorded until you finally hit submit on the exam after you've completed all 32 questions. Now, this is important. Turns out that this ILM final exam is open book. So if you've completed all of those quizzes, those self-check quizzes leading up to this final exam, if you've taken your time and you've gotten maximum score on those quizzes, then as I mentioned, you'll be well equipped to do very well on this final exam. So how do you set yourself up so that you can take advantage of this open book feature and be able to reference back to the material while you're also taking the exam? Well, you can go back to your student portal. Of course, I've got the faculty portal. And you can open up another instance of Canvas. And as you can see, it has opened up another tab. Meanwhile, the information literacy final is still available right here on the first tab. So we'll go ahead and log back in. And here I am in Canvas, and I can go right back into the information literacy module on this second screen. And I can reference back to any of the notes or any of the quizzes that I already took. So those are available while I'm actually taking the information literacy final. So you can reference back and forth between these tabs in order to maximize your opportunities for success on the questions on the final. Now, once you've completed all the questions on the final exam and then you click submit, you'll be presented with a score screen. And it's going to look just like this, where I can see that I got 100% on my exam. And there it is here on my attempts. You only get one attempt. And there's my 100. But this is important. This is not the correct screen to capture and submit to CGS1100, to micro apps. The reason for that is because even though this screen is showing your score, it doesn't have your name on it. So you need to make sure that you submit a screenshot that also includes your name as well as your score. So how do we get a correct screen in order to get credit for the exam? Here's where you find it. You'll go over here to the course navigation in the ILM and you'll click on grades. When you click on grades, you'll be presented with this screen that has your name on it. As you can see, my name in this case is test student, but it'll have your name on it. It'll say grades for John Smith or Jane Doe or whatever your name is, and it will have the grade on it. So you need to make sure that you get a screen that looks like this, that has both your name and the grade on it. This is one of the screens that you can capture that will work fine for getting credit for it. Or you can drill down one level deeper by clicking on this link for information literacy final, and this screen will work as well. This is going to have your name on it. There's test student, so it'll be John Smith or whatever your name is, and the grade. So you can capture this screen as well and then submit it over to CGS1100. So how do we capture that screenshot? Well, I'm on a Windows machine, so I'm going to pause for just a second and show folks who have a Mac how to access instructions for capturing a screenshot on the Mac. I'm going to go back here to Modules and go back to our instructions. As we scroll down here on the instructions, you'll see that on step number 5, you would use the snipping tool on the PC, but if you have a Mac, here's the link for a website that describes how to capture a screenshot on your Mac. So if you're a Mac person, you'll follow this direction right here. Now I'm going to go back to the ILM, and I'm going to go back to that grade screen, and let's talk about how to do it on a Windows machine. So here we are on the screen that I want to capture. I'm going to go down to the bottom here, and here's my Start menu. And next to the Start menu, depending upon how you're configured, you'll either have a magnifying glass or this little circle for the Cortana tool. And in either case, one of them is going to have a search panel when you click on it. And we're going to search for the word snip. And when we do that, we'll be presented with a link for the Snipping tool application. When I go into that application, it's going to bring up this window here. That's the Snipping tool. The quick way to capture this entire screen is to go into Mode and then do a full screen snip. In other words, you'll be capturing a snapshot, a snip, of this entire screen. It's very important that you get the entire screen so that we can see not only that it's got your name and it's got the grade, but also that you've gotten this from the information literacy module, the current version of it. In this case, it's 2020 term number 2. So, as you can see, we are in the Snipping tool and we've got our snapshot. What you need to do is save that snapshot, that snip, as a file so that you can submit it back to CGS1100. And here's how we do that. We're going to click on File, and then we're going to click on Save As. And this is going to save it as a file somewhere. I'm going to save it here on my desktop, but you can save it in any folder that you like as long as you can locate where you stashed it and then access it back when we submit it to CGS1100. So I'm going to capture that screen snip, and I'm going to give it a name that's pertinent, like my last name and ILM. So in this case, it's Radisher ILM. And then when I save that, now it's saved on my desktop. So now that I've saved it, I can go ahead and get out of the screen snipping tool. And then I'm going to go back to CGS1100, back to the Micro Apps course. We're going to go to the dashboard. And then I'm going to go back to Micro Apps. And once I'm in Micro Apps, here I am in Student View again. I'm going to go back to Modules. I'm going to scroll down back to my Information Literacy Final Assessment. And this is where we submit it. Here's the information on submitting it. Don't be late. Please be on time so you get full credit. And you're going to click Submit Assignment. When you do that, you'll be presented with this window right here, which is where you can upload a file. And we're going to go look for that screen capture that you saved using the snipping tool a couple of minutes ago. So we're going to do a Choose File. And we're going to navigate, in my case, to the desktop, but you'll navigate to whatever folder you stored it in. And there it is, Radisher ILM. You can sort by date modified, and it'll roll right to the top. And then I'm going to click that. As you can see, it has uploaded it. And then when I do a Submit Assignment, when I click Submit Assignment, that's going to submit it. And it'll show that the file was submitted. And behind the scenes, I will receive that, and I'll be able to record your grade. So that's the technique for going to the grades screen in the information literacy module using the snipping tool to capture a snapshot or a snip of that screen and then saving it and then coming back to CGS 1100 and submitting it for credit here in Micro Apps. I hope this video clarifies any confusion that you might have with the submission process.